us pray. Dear God, we thank you for guiding our administration, the leadership team, Carol Marco and the officers of the Residence Council as they have led us through a very trying year. We are grateful that a high percent of the residents and team members have received 2 vaccines for COVID-19. We pray that we are done with snow and ice for 2021 and anxiously await springtime. As we slowly move into visitation and activities, we pray for your understanding and patience of our residents. Bless all the residents and team members who have problems of any kind. And bless Cedarfield as we go forward to a more normal time. Amen.
Thank you, Jean. The Vision Award nomination is submitted by Resident Council once a year. This award is the most difficult one to achieve. The team member must clearly support a resident in reaching his or her own personal goals and provide guidance and encouragement to the individual resident. The Resident Council Executive Committee will review and choose the team members for this award. The award will be presented by the Resident Council during the yearly association meeting. Our nominee this year is known for her cheerful spirit and her willingness to help residents and staff members alike as needs arise. When the publication of the updated Cedarfield Residence Directory was derailed just before the anticipated opening of D-Wing, she undertook this challenging project, saw it through to completion, and placed it into the hands of a grateful community. When spirits need raising and youthful remembrances bring happiness, she's there as a scarecrow, a clown, T-Rex, Christmas elf, and Roaring Twenties flapper, to rename a few of her aliases. When information is needed, she's in pursuit. She is known as a can-do person, which is such an asset in a campus such as large as ours and with such a diversity of residents and staff. The 2021 Cedarfield Resident Council Vision Award winner this year is Laurie Root. Would you please come forward? Say a few words. There's your certificate.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. You're sneaky. I would like to thank the Academy. Just kidding. I am in awe, and I feel incredibly blessed to walk this journey with you. And it truly is my life's mission to be here and be a part of your lives, our team members' lives, leadership. Every resident here means the world to me. And if I can make your days easier in any way I can, that's what I will do, and I will continue to. So I just thank you so much. What a surprise. What a surprise. Thank you.
On March 12th, 2020, we went into isolation. No visits, no activities, no meetings, no dining room. Almost everything stopped. Do you remember? All of us were delivered food each day, so no one was going hungry. But we certainly missed the dining room and staff. We learned how to clean our apartments and cottages again and realized how much we wanted housekeeping back. Do you remember on May 25th, a glorious spring day, where we went into the courtyard and celebrated Memorial Day? We actually saw residents and spoke with them. Also on May 26th, the art room opened on a limited basis, as well as the pool, exercise room, and library. Some other services were offered with a limited number of residents at different times during June. Warm weather returned and we all went outside. Do you remember on July 1st, we entered phase 2 with small groups of 25 able to meet? And how wonderful the dining room was reopened for dinner reservations with careful distancing. And housekeeping returned. And the planning for the 25th anniversary began. In July, we celebrated our first resident council meeting. We learned how to be on channel 971. And Eddie recorded our meetings because we were limited to the numbers attending. And everyone wanted to have an opportunity to see and listen. Do you remember in August we walked and met outside as often as the weather permitted in our small groups? Vacations for the most part were canceled, but we shared memories. Do you remember in September we celebrated Labor Day outside? Team members and residents helped give us a party. And in October, we entered phase 3 and were allowed visitations with limitations. We had fun and memories as we dedicated the garden beds. Do you remember on October 30th, we were locked down again and 72 residents were quarantined? But we still had dining and housekeeping. And also in November, dining gave us a spectacular Thanksgiving meal and the atrium opened. And in December, the council celebrated Christmas and had an exciting but different kind of party for our staff. Do you remember in January 2021, the Great Gatsby dinner? It came and it was wonderful. Then things changed. We had a mixture of good and bad. The bad news, the dining room closed again. Visitation ceased. But the good news, the vaccine was coming and gave us hope. January 22nd, the first round of vaccine for independent living residents was given. And on February 12th, the second round of vaccine came to us even in the snow. Is freedom coming at last? As we come to the close of February and we're having our annual meeting, there's some things I will never forget. I want to thank management for their help and willingness to meet regularly to discuss our issues. I cannot forget all the help that I've been given by your officers. I could not have managed this year without their efforts. I want to thank them for their creativity and resourcefulness so that we could have meetings, elections, update the handbook, just to mention a few of the many things they participated in. I want to thank the area representatives and committee chairs for their suggestions and help under difficult circumstances, and all the residents for giving me an opportunity to serve as your president. And last but not least, I want to thank my husband for being patient and understanding as I tried to perform my duties. These are the things I want to remember. And now I wish to extend to our new president best wishes for a new year and hopefully many more exciting memories. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. As we had announced previously, the slate of officers were Mike Greenwood for President-elect and Vivian Makowski for Assistant Secretary Treasurer. And because of COVID, we had a paper ballot this year. We needed to have a minimum of 125 people voting to meet the quorum of the bylaws. Happy to say we had 291 people voting. 291 people voted for, 8 people abstained. That means they did not mark the ballot box there. Anyhow, we want to welcome our new officers. So let's give them a hand.
The election of committee chairs will be given by Rose Streeter. The following people have been elected to chair your committees for next year. Communications, Rose Studer. With the subcommittee of the Cedar Digest, headed by Fred Beck. Dining Services, Jean Bodie. Environmental Services, Vernon Whitaker and Clyde Roper. Facilities, Don Nagel and Ken Pankey. Finance, Carol Markow. Flower Committee, Louisa Rucker. Gardening Committee, Roger Dowdy and Sally Sessoms. The Health Committee. The Health Services Committee, Elvira Seghetti and Nancy Hofheimer. The Library Committee, Dolly Hines. Religious Life Committee, Charlotte Bailey. Safety, James Buzz May. Welcoming, Nellie Keener and Nancy Bolio as co-chairs, and the subcommittee of ambassadors will be headed by Mary Ellen Acey. The Wellness and Leisure Committee, Barbara Rose. We will now have our outgoing committee chairs give their reports. Communications will be given by Rose Struder. This is a report written by Jane Kelly, who's the current chair, who couldn't be with us today. The Communications Committee met on the following dates: 2/5, 7/8, 10/7, and 1/6 in the chatterbox of the third floor conference room. We feel that Michael Shaw kept us well informed through his afternoon chats on 971, call phone calls, and memos during the pandemic. We published messages in the Informer. Perhaps residents concentrated on COVID and not the usual complaints. Fred Beck continued regular editions of Cedar Digest, and we advertised for increased resident input. The last report of our 1/6/21 meeting lists suggestions for post-COVID emphasis. One person be responsible for announcements on Channel 970. 2, all committee reports submitted to resident council be read at the meeting. 3, encourage area reps to circulate resident council minutes. 4, improve Verizon Comcast connections and offerings. 5, the return of periodic meetings with departments and the area groups. And 6, distribution of photos of new residents. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. Dining Services, Jean Bodie.
not going to read my report. My report went to everybody, and I didn't realize that. When I went to send it to Roe, I wrote reply all, and I got a call from Jackie Chapman, and I said, how did you get that? And she informed me that I had replied all, so you all got my minutes. But what I want to, this is an advertisement for the dining room, pure and simple. I want everyone who is listening and everybody who's here to make an effort to come to the dining room. The dining room is now open as of next Monday, and you can start making reservations today. Okay? Now, let me tell you why. As we have gone over statistics in the dining room, most all of the complaints, the greatest number of the complaints or concerns or whatever, come from takeout meals. And the people in the dining room will be the first to tell you that takeout meals, you can get filet mignon, but if you get it in a styrofoam container, it doesn't look nearly as good, okay? And coming to the dining room is more than just coming to the dining room. I heard the remark made by somebody, well, if I'm going to have to eat alone, I might as well eat in my apartment. You don't understand. Coming to the dining room gets you out of your apartment. You have to comb your hair. You have to put on real clothes. And you talk to real people. I like Lester Holt, but eating every night with him is not very stimulating, okay? And the wait staff are wonderful. They know you, they are patient with you, they are kind. The hostesses will bend over backwards to let you be socially distanced, but close with friends, okay? And it works. So I am encouraging all of you listening in here to make an effort to come to the dining room. Most every day lunch has openings, okay? So if you can't come to dinner and you don't feel comfortable coming with all the people, and I know that with some people, come to the dining room. Come to the dining room for lunch. Coming to the dining room not only feeds your body, but it feeds your soul.
Thank you. Environmental Services, Vernon Whitaker.
Thank you. Well, the Environmental Committee had 3 meetings, one on July 7th, October 6th, and January 5th, all of them in the chatterbox. The meeting of July the 7th was our first meeting, and I didn't become the chairman until November 19th, and so I needed to learn many things. And so the meeting was preceded by works done with the help of Beth Burrell and Jack Johnson, and emails between them, the membership, and me. First thing we did, we passed an extraordinary resolution for scenic access of Cedarfield Lake. And we did it with an email vote, and nobody got together, and it was requested prompt action to remove the overgrowth between the clubhouse and Cedarfield Nature Pond. You couldn't see from the clubhouse to the lake. The fast approach of summer and the rapid filling of the dredged pond were concerns here, because the lake fills up, you can't get to the overgrowth to get it. So management immediately recognized the urgency and did what they could to take out the overgrowth. This effort was not ideal and must be repeated with regularity to sustain a good view from the clubhouse. The resolution is complete. I became chairman November 19th and spent my committee efforts with resident concerns, and trying to learn the new bylaws to get some idea of the overall goals and obligations of the environmental committee. When team input was required, I dealt with Beth Burrell and Jack Johnson. As soon as we could have meetings, our first was scheduled for July 7th. That meeting welcomed a new member and heard status reports on the nature and the pond trail, and the concerns of members relative to the dredging and states of construction and landscape deterioration amongst the cottages. The landscaping is deteriorating, and to lawns that won't drain very well. We passed an outline then of how I thought the committee should operate. October 6th, we heard the status reports for the Nature Pond Trail and Nature Trail, and after Fiona Ross was introduced, and much discussion ensued about how we could be asked to help with the celebration of Cedar Field's 25th anniversary. Our committee was attempting to share its local knowledge with her. Enthusiasm abounded, and after a brief discussion of continuing environmental concerns, I adjourned the meeting and lingering discussions with Fiona continued. Social distancing was practiced. The meeting of January 5th, the trail reports were heard, and there was a discussion related to the birds of the nature pond. And the feeding habits of the birds trended toward the topic of feeding the geese. A member volunteered to further investigate the topic with Beth Burrell. The solution was to not feed the geese, and the report will be heard at our next meeting, which is planned for April 6th. Jack Johnson, in that meeting, in our meeting, continuing, Jack Johnson acknowledged that a piece of trash concrete would be replaced by a suitable pretty stone in the border of a flower bed near the Redbud Bridge along the walkway by Memory Care. He also agreed that the effluent of rusty water with an oil sheen from the fire hydrant, it's the cutoff chamber in front of 2112 Cedarfield Lane, he agreed that rusty water would be redirected downhill, which is across the lane, and across the lane beneath the pavement as part of the new paving project. And let's see, at that meeting, a resolution entitled, Resolution Regarding Stormwater Problem Behind 2178 Cedarfield Lane. It was passed, and though the water problem later than that was overcome by some good work by Roto-Rooter, and Scott McDonald helped them know where they were going. This resolution intends to distribute the knowledge that the swales themselves, which sit atop a crushed stone bed their whole length, and so if we could utilize the swales and get the water down into the crushed stone bed, it would flow all the way out to the lane, and we could have a secondary way of getting water away from there. That's what people weren't here when that was all put in. Last comments. The only open resolution is the one above, and we intend to discuss it in the April meeting. We'll discuss small opportunities, but we will often discuss small opportunities, but if the interest lags, they don't become resolutions. And I'm proud to announce Dr. Clyde Roper as my co-chairman for the coming year, and I'm sure his knowledge and enthusiasm will be a valued addition to our leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie. Facilities, Ken Pankey.
I'm Ken Pankey, filling in for Chuck Bingley and Don Nagel, the co-chairs of this committee. Neither one could be here today. The other committee members are Catherine Dunn, Dick Jones, David Reynolds, who is a new resident in Cedarfield, Tom Simmons, and Vernon Whitaker. The meetings are held quarterly. Some of the topics subjects that were handled during the past year on the Cedarfield campus: work orders and feedback, notification of work order delays, timely responses to letters and emails sent by residents, weekend coordination between concierge, maintenance, and housekeeping, lights on the Cedarfield paths, the intensity of the courtyard lighting, which unfortunately can't be changed due to the fire codes, the resurfacing of the lane, the parkway coming in. As a matter of fact, all of the paved areas, that work has been delayed, will be done this spring. On the cottages, approximately 1/4 of the cottage roofs has been replaced. The remainder are scheduled to start again this coming spring. There's much discussion on the gutter guards, stopped up downspouts. That is still an ongoing problem. Replacement of gas log fireplaces in the fireplaces with electric fireplaces is in progress. Routine preventative maintenance and cleaning, dryer vents, heating, venting and air conditioning systems, and power washing. They're behind schedule, but they're trying to get caught up on that. In the main building, routine maintenance of the HVAC filter change, that's on schedule. Dryer vents, they're working on that, they're overdue. The direct outside air system, that is scheduled for routine maintenance only, and no additional system changes are planned. Again, the fireplaces in the main building are going to be changed to electric. The D-wing, we've had a couple of plumbing problems there. Hopefully that's been resolved. There is a fire alarm situation on the second floor. The volume tends to be too low. The security system for the garage door remains inactive. The refresh program for the cottages and the apartments is behind schedule due to the COVID-19. Hopefully that will be resumed shortly. For the coming year, Don Nagel and I will be the co-chairs. The new committee members is Chuck Bingley, Catherine Dunn, Dick Jones, David Reynolds, and Ann Williams. And again, the meetings are scheduled quarterly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Finance, David Long.
The Finance Committee meets quarterly, and at each meeting we review the prior quarter's financial results with James Green. Our latest meeting was this past Monday. We reviewed the first 6 months of fiscal 2021, and that was as of the end of November, so it was basically 3 months ago. This period was negatively affected by 2 events. First, this is going to sound familiar. COVID-19 was in full swing both quarters and caused significant additional costs to the community. These included, among others, approximately $386,000 in COVID-related supplies and equipment. In addition, there were significant added payroll costs in the form of hero bonuses for first-line workers. There are some reimbursement programs provided by the state and federal governments, and these have been applied for. It is a complicated process, as you would imagine, but hopefully, eventually, there will be some compensation received. During this pandemic, all over the country, many potential residents have been somewhat reluctant to move into senior living facilities, and that has had a modest negative effect on our occupancy to date. Hopefully that will change soon. Secondly, the months-long delay in the opening of D-Wing caused a loss of entry fees and monthly rental fees for all of those months. In addition, there were cases of having to accommodate some residents who had to move to existing apartments while waiting for D-Wing to open, and then move a second time, all of which had to be borne by Cedarfield. A claim has been filed with the insurance company for this lost income and extra expense, but to date there has been no settlement of that claim. In total, after all was said and done, and after other adjustments were made, the operating income fell short of budget by only roughly $100,000. A very large unrealized recovery in Cedarfield's investments, and this figure is a non-operating, non-recurring bookkeeping entry, resulted in a material increase in our net assets. So despite the problems outlined above, your community remains in a strong financial position. And with Carol Marco taking my place next year, you're in great shape.
Flower Committee, Louisa Rucker.
Despite COVID-19, the Flower Committee's had a good year. We've had attrition, some people have left for a variety of reasons, change in circumstances, death. And we've had new people come in from the new residents, which we've just been really pleased about, because that means fresh ideas and fresh techniques and all of that. And even though the flower activities were gone for almost 4 months, we still provided 320 plus public arrangements over the course of the year. These are the tiny ones and the big ones and so on. And even more exciting for me is that the dedicated arrangements program, where people give for honor of someone or some circumstance or whatever, has just been so well received. People will see us bring flower arrangements out and say, who are they for? Well, they're for you, but they're for whoever they're dedicated for so many times, and people take great joy in seeing that. So that's been such a thrill, and over the course of the last year, we've had more than 40 arrangements dedicated, and that's brought in over $1,700 to offset the flower ministry. So it's been a good year, I'm happy to say.
Thank you, Louisa. Gardening, Roger Dowdy.
Carol. I want to give you a quick context for the work of the Gardening Committee because of the fine work of Tom and Carol at this meeting last year at this time. We were able to include the Gardening Committee, which means all across the campus, not just the resident beds, but to give the Gardening Committee the oversight of a new 10th dimension, which is cultivate. So when you think about cultivate, I want you to not just think about the resident gardens, which you may or may not be engaged with, except maybe to wander through. But it really is the beauty and the richness and the agriculture of the entire campus, our wetlands, all the way to the gardening beds. So that's kind of our context, and we're grateful to Tom and Carol for their support to make this a standing committee of the council. The significant long-term step, therefore, that I put in the notes was confirmed last year by the Residents' Council in February to make Cedarfield Garden Committee a standing committee, and thereby recognizing Cultivate as a vital 10th dimension for wellness and living at Cedarfield. And we're grateful to the leadership of Beth Burrell and Jan Steele as the resident consultant, Tom Maxwell and Carol Markow. By far across the campus, one of the most visible highlights of 2020 was the recreation of the Cedarfield Resident Gardens. Long in the planning and development since the original temporary beds, that's really hard to remember. Those of you who've been here longer than Janie and I were, it took us the first 2 years to realize that the beds we used to know, which is a parking lot, they were temporary for 20 years. Such is the institution, I guess. In any case, it was wonderful. That's why I'm calling what we have now as a recreation in a new location. On Thursday, October 1st, a bright blue sky day, the residents and team members gathered in the new gardening bed area to celebrate and dedicate phase 1. That's important to remember too. Dedicate phase 1 of the resident garden planting beds and a new garden house. For the dedication, it took a village. There was a significant cross-section of the entire leadership community, residential community was involved, and the new garden house was designated as Janie's house. Janie was my co-partner in chairing this committee since 2018, and she gave steady guidance and focus and collaboration to the project of the garden beds in tandem with Beth Burrell, horticulturalist, Jack Johnson in maintenance, and Michael Shaw and the executive leadership staff. The resident garden beds themselves are led by two of our great residents, Nancy Hoffheimer and Christine Watt. And one of the most pleasant experiences was the signing up and assigning of those garden beds, because as we all know, there can be a lot of politics involved with how that happens when there's priority of people who already had garden beds and then new ones. And we couldn't have had two more savvy women to lead that effort, and everybody was happy, and all the garden beds are assigned, and so there's even a waiting list. So it couldn't have gone more better, and we're grateful to Nancy and Christine for leading that. I want you to know that one of the highlights of this restored garden beds is the fact that it's now a destination on our campus, whether you're a gardener or not. One of my favorite things to do is to slip away to Starbucks and then come back and enjoy my Starbucks and a book on the deck at the garden bed, because you get to just sit in the shade and watch the wildlife and the beauty. So you don't have to be a gardener to enjoy the Cedarfield resident gardens, and I hope you'll make that. So I've listed here one of the immediate as well as far-reaching impacts of the gardening area is the combined beauty and full accessibility to that area. Non-gardening residents and aides and caregivers have immediately took advantage of this safe and beautiful campus destination as a delightful place to stroll or roll and enjoy exploring a variety of plantings. We couldn't report without giving Rose Studer great kudos for her fine work with our Garden Angels team, which take care of all the plantings that Beth manages around the entire campus, and to Jan and Mike Steele for their dedicated work in a huge fundraiser for the second year of the Birds of Cedarfield calendar. And I imagine everybody here, I hope you did, purchased at least one. And that fund is growing rapidly, and it helps us support Beth in beautifying the whole Cedarfield campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Health Services, Elmira Segedi.
The Health Committee meets quarterly. Members of this committee spent most of the meetings this year looking at safety factors related to the health and wellness building and surrounding area. The first issue related to the need was for an AED access and placement in the building, as well as identifying where they were on campus and the need to purchase additional ones. 2 new machines were purchased. One is outside the exercise room with machines, and it is labeled. The other is in healthcare. These are defibrillators, and the building was built and didn't have any, so it became quite a concern for people who were using the building that there be one available. All machines are checked monthly per Ann Hopper, and there's still a need to make sure that all the machines on campus are labeled. A prime example is the AED down in the atrium does not have a label on it. The second issue addressed by members related to the need for railings along the sidewalk next to the building and identifying steps. Rails are placed and steps are identified with yellow markings. These issues were addressed in collaboration with the Safety Committee. Issues for next year include communicating understanding what the Medicare unit will mean to residents so that they can be supportive of that plan. And Nancy Hoffheimer and I will co-chair the committee for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvira. Library, Dolly Hintz.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Library Committee meets bi-monthly. Due to COVID, the March and May meetings were canceled. Meetings were held in the Fellowship Hall July 15th, September 16th, November 18th, and January 2021. Just before the pandemic, Becky Maxwell had acquired a cart to distribute magazines and books to residents in healthcare and assisted living. A special closet was allocated to her to store these items. She had to stop visiting those areas in March 2020, and the service has not resumed. The library was closed to residents March 19th, 2020, and reopened on May 28th, 2021, with restricted use. No puzzle activities, the newspapers have been discontinued, and subscriptions have not been resumed, and magazines are no longer accepted. Hopefully, like everything else, that will change soon too. During the past year, 6 members resigned from the committee, but 5 new members have joined the committee. Job descriptions were created for all the volunteer positions. A computer and printer were acquired for the library, thanks to Allison Zach and the Cedarfield IT department. A desk was purchased for the computer using funds from the, from the Friends of the Library account. All the books were inventoried and entered into the computer program. Don Makowski received the Hero Award for his dedicated time and effort during the inventory. It was a very tedious project. The antique card catalog is now residing in the balcony. Volunteers attended tutorials to learn how to use the library computer program. And I have to take a second to acknowledge the fact that my daughter is the one that put all the books into the computer system and did the tutorials. I am very blessed. Topics still pending: shelf space to move the classics where they can be more accessible. Right now, they're way up on top. The solution for now, DVDs moved to the Peppermint Lounge and or given away. The Richmond and Virginia history books will be moved to the balcony. Books on the balcony can be removed and read at the residents' leisure and then returned. There is no need to check them out. We have not moved those books up there yet, but it'll probably happen next week. Cleaning, painting, and refreshing the library with new artwork. Let's get rid of Churchill, please. And new furniture. This is on administration's schedule. Tutorials for volunteers on the use of the committee so it can be used to its fullest capacity. And there is an active solicitation for new volunteers from the new residents and some of you older residents that may be interested in helping out in the library. The library volunteers continue to do an exceptional job in maintaining and servicing the library. The chairman is extremely grateful to all of them. The committee voted to retain the current chairman, Dolly Hintz, for another year, and the chairman agreed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. Religious Life, Jean Harrell.
The Religious Life Committee generally meets about 4 times a year. Needless to say, we've only had 1 meeting this whole year. My report is the entire Religious Life Committee has only met once this year due to the COVID-19. A meeting was held January 28th to introduce Charlotte Bailey as the chairman for 2021. New members of the Angel Fund and the Altar Guild were announced. Tribute was paid to Ruth McMillan for her service on the Angel Fund for 30 years, and to Ethel Harris for service on the Altar Guild for several years as they came off the roster this year. The Angel Fund met 17 times in 2020 and approved $31,000 to help 24 people that had financial need. The Altar Guild continued to make flower arrangements for church services and change the paraments as needed. Preparation for communion was not needed due to the changes with the COVID. February is the time for our requests for Angel Fund donations. Flyers were printed and placed in each mailbox. With a successful drive, we will continue to help those in need. And I have to add, we have 4 more days in February. If you have not contributed, please see to it that you do. It's a very worthwhile group. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Safety, Margaret Thomas.
Hello. The Safety Committee usually meets 4 times a year. We met last week by Zoom. I have to tell you, all of our home environments looked very safe. Buzz May asked me to read the very brief minutes to show you what our committee does. The meeting was called to order on Zoom on the 19th of February. Present were James May, Craig Watts, Margaret Thomas, Jack Johnson, and Sally Vorjak. A resident of D Wing submitted a request about painting yellow lines on the edges of the stairs at the end of D Wing. Sally Vorjak brought up the stairs on A, B, and C wings still have no yellow lines on the edges. Jack Johnston, I am sorry, I omitted his name. Jack Johnston was at the meeting, and he said that he would see that the lines were painted. Another item was about the sidewalk where the parkway meets the lane. The sidewalk is uneven where they completed work last year and seems to be a tripping hazard. Jack Johnston said he would check on that. Then Mr. Johnston mentioned that 30, as Ken Pankey talked about, 30 of the gas fireplaces in the cottages, which were unsafe, have been exchanged for electric fireplaces. The gas fireplaces are unvented and are only safe to use for as long as an hour and a half with a window cracked. Eventually, all the fireplaces in the cottages will become electric. Jack Johnston mentioned that paving of the lane is scheduled for spring, no exact date. And then our next meeting, perhaps a real meeting, will be in May. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcoming Committee, Nellie Keener.
A day or so after a new resident moves in, the Welcome Committee sends a personal note giving them our phone numbers and offering to be of help to them or answer any questions they may have. These past months, we have also apologized for not being able to welcome them as we would like, due to the corona pandemic and restrictions. The Welcome Committee has had to use different methods for making the incoming residents feel welcome and seeing to it that they were made to feel at home here at Cedar Field. Once marketing lets us know a new resident is moving in, we contact that area's representative requesting that he or she assist this incoming resident in any way he or she can. An ambassador program was organized and has proven to be quite helpful to the new residents. Mary Ellen Acey is in charge of this program and assigns an ambassador to each new resident. This ambassador calls on the new resident a few days after moving and offers to help with any need he or she may have. They frequently give these residents tours of the buildings. Approximately 20 residents have volunteered to be ambassadors. We thank Mary Ellen and the ambassadors for doing such a great job. Our President, Carol Marco, President-elect Eldon Brucker, also with the assistance of Steve Geisling, dining room manager, helped us orchestrate welcoming sessions. We have had 8 of them. Those attending these sessions seem to find them both beneficial and enjoyable, as we frequently receive notes and phone calls from the new residents thanking us. A plan is now underway to assist residents who transition from the cottages to apartments we have learned there are adjustments that need to be addressed. It has been a real pleasure to work with Carol and others involved this past year.
Thank you, Nellie. She's been a pleasure to work with as well. And we're looking forward to another year of welcoming new residents. At this time, we would like to recognize Carol Marco, who has gone beyond what is necessary to help Nellie and me as we welcome our new residents. They're always at our meetings. She's always willing to talk to us on the telephone and give us suggestions about how to handle certain things. Carol, we thank you. And we have a little bouquet for you.
Well, I'll say that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I have enjoyed working with Nancy too. So it's been a pleasure.
We still have one more committee. Wellness and Leisure, Jim Trometer.
This year provided significant challenges to the ability of the committee to accomplish its task, like everybody else. As for all, the pandemic early on disrupted communications and the ability to carry out our charge. We adapted by learning to meet via Zoom and eventually transitioned to in-person meetings by sanitizing tables and chairs and wearing masks. Another source of disruption was the unexpected and unexplained departures of 3 Cedar Field staff the committee worked closely with. 2 had provided resources and assistance for our group over a longer period of time, while we hardly had sufficient time to adjust to the change in leadership style of the 3rd. After the initial interruption of programs caused by the virus, activities rebounded, although often in a new format. Closed-circuit TV proved invaluable, allowing small, distanced, and masked audiences in the field house, and those not attending to participate from the comfort of their home. We covered many topics, from dugout canoes, thanks to Roger, to a new experience, to adding food trucks to our agenda. The adaptation of the Veterans Day program was very successful thanks to the efforts of Georgia and Rebecca. The Residents Council President has asked the incoming chair to explore the committee structure so that we'll be able to meet the challenges presented by expanded areas of responsibility and Cedar Field management adjustments.
Thank you. You've got VACRA also? Yes.
The Virginia Continuing Care Residents Association, affectionately known as VACRA, was particularly affected by the pandemic as it was in the process of a major overhaul of record-keeping programs. VACRA has affiliated with the National Continuing Care Residents Association, quite a mouthful, NACRA, which provides one source of membership records, billing, meetings, and documents, greatly improving our member services. All members are now members of VACRA and NACRA. Total dues $35 a year. It's a bargain. The organization remains financially sound. The Legislative Committee is closely monitoring legislation in the General Assembly this year related to Medicare, price controls on prescription drugs, and making permanent the 7.5% threshold for medical deductions. Unfortunately, the Ombudsman bill did not survive this session, but we are already working on it to get it next year. Packer will continue seeking resident representation on the boards of supervisors continuing care facilities.
Thank you. We'll now have the results of the election of the area representatives. Rose Struder will give those. The following people have been elected by their respective areas to represent the people in those areas. Area 1, Marty Rittenhouse. Number 2, Andy Cauters. Number 3, Sally Bingley. Number 4, Nancy Hoffheimer. Area 5, Joe Peavy and Sally Ayers. Area 6, Joan Tipton and Pat Alders. Area 7, Ann Williams. Area 8, Tom Simmons and Bill Paulson. Area 9, Glennie Brown. Area 10, Becky Simmons and Jan Moore. Area 11, Don Branson. Area 12, Pat Omberg and Betty Mann. Area 13, Kent Rowe. Area 14, Peggy Daniels. Area 15, Peggy Sears. Area 16, Ann Smith and Jane Hessler. Area 17, Nancy Boyer. Area 18, Beth Long. Area 19, Carol Williams and Emma Wise. Area 20, Cynthia Seal. Area 21, Jan Leeton and Annette Chapman. Thank you, Rose. The area representative reports are not going to be read today, but they will be included in the minutes that will go to every resident. For the sake of time, we thought that maybe we would hold that off. We now have the president-elect wants to say a few words to you. Eldon Rucker.
Thank you very much, Carol. First of all, I do wish to thank Carol for her service over the last year, especially for her abilities to adapt to an ever-changing set of circumstances with graciousness and patience. Wow. Additionally, I am so very grateful for the Cedarfield staff and all the ways in which they have worked to meet our basic needs while keeping us safe. As we prepare for the 21-22 year, I'm optimistic that with the vaccine distribution behind us, better times are just ahead. During the pandemic, as you heard, our welcoming ambassadors team has assisted close to 50 new residents in their initial settling in process. The D-Wing is now almost fully occupied. Won't it be terrific when more aspects of Cedarfield reopen and friendships have opportunities to bloom in a variety of different activities and programs? As we embark on this next year, I want to re-emphasize the importance that we, as a community, continue our commitment to remain safe under Michael's leadership and his continuing dialogue with state and local agencies. I would like to promise that a new norm is imminently on the horizon, but I also recognize that caution is still the key. Secondly, I encourage anyone who is interested in becoming more involved in the fabric of this community to review the various resident committees and area groups, as you've heard about, to see where you might like to plug in. That contact information is found in the front of the Cedarfield telephone directory, and also please feel free to reach out to those resident leaders where you have an interest, or call me or any other members of the council for further information. Lastly, I would like to stress my awareness of the importance of communication in all aspects of our life at Cedarfield. I look forward to continuing the quest for the best for our community. And now, Carol, before we move to the last parts, if you could come forward, I'd like to give you, on behalf of the work that you've done and for the resident council, a gift card for one of your favorite restaurants in the area. We did some research and found out that your other hand, it may be his favorite. But we surely appreciate what you've done, and I hope you enjoy this whenever you will have more free time. And in addition to that, we have a flower thing that can make your home.
Take your mask off, Carol.
Thank you so much. Well, thank everyone for being so generous and so nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is there any old business to come before the council? Under new business, we do have one item. Your officers have reviewed the handbook and found some changes were necessary to bring it up to date. The secretary has made these changes, made copies, and placed them in an envelope for each council member. Today, we ask the council members who are present to pick up your envelope. Over there, we're hiding them under the tablecloth, they're there. Remove the outdated pages and replace them with new ones according to the directions that are included. We will also deliver inserts and instructions to anyone not present at this meeting. And remember, our responsibility is to update it and pass it on if there's a new person taking your position. So if you have any questions, Roe and I will be over there helping you get your envelopes. Just let us know. And if there's no other business, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.